The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Victoria Jones from Satoshi's Page.
Hello, hello, everybody.
Ben Ark from LN Bits.
Hello, everyone.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one, the price of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is up so much it's off the charts. The price of Bitcoin is up 2.79% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 77,534, a high of 78,328, and a low of 74,524. That's $1 for 1,290 Satoshis. Volume was at 1,493 Bitcoin changing hands. What's going on? Why is Bitcoin suddenly so popular? It turns out that issue one, Bitcoin stocks surge as Iran says the Strait of Hormuz is completely open. According to Iran, the war in Iran is over. The president says he has a deal, and it's on. Suddenly, the price of Bitcoin's back, and it might also be to some of the other issues later in the show. Victoria Jones, what do you think about issue one? The most important thing, as always, the price of Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's doing remarkably well. I even mentioned to my teenage daughter the other day, who wants a career in finance, that apparently Iran had stated that they were going to charge people in Bitcoin to ship oil through the Strait of Hormuz, and of her own volition, she said, "Does that mean it's time to buy buy Bitcoin again?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I finally trained you." So yeah, I don't know, maybe it could be a bit of a lag effect. Maybe there has been a bit of momentum behind the scenes because that was going to be part of the deal, although apparently they were going to take stable coins as well. But now, of course, it's all off the table. But it's very difficult to predict anything in these sorts of situations. It seems like good news for now, but given how volatile Trump is, obviously it could all change tomorrow. So who knows? But certainly there seems to be some good momentum in that direction. Obviously, things are a bit uncertain. All the chaos in the Middle East apparently has disrupted oil flows, and apparently there's a lag effect in fully seeing the effect of those. So it could well be that in the release of tension, this is what's caused the stock market to go up. But of course, in the following weeks, as the problems with the oil market kind of find their way through the through society, that it may well be that then has a dampening effect on the stock market as well. So it's great for the moment, but I wouldn't bet the house on it right now.
Continued doom and gloom from Victoria. Although I do think
who is 77% accurate.
Just keep saying that as the numbers continue to shift the other direction. I do think it's a combination of two things, though. It's not only this end of the Iran war, or supposed end, which was a disastrous conflict that will be studied forever. Iran seeming to come out here in the top. So at first, it's the idea that Iran could take Bitcoin and that they would say, well, we want something that can't be confiscated, i.e., we want Bitcoin. That's great news. Also, there's this, they used to call it the crypto bill. Maybe it's the Bitcoin bill. I think it's the stable coins bill. And like it or not, the so-called smart money, AKA the money that just acts in a big herd and runs in and out of investments, has been waiting for this bill. So even we're going to talk about it on issue three, I think what's moving the market? They think they've got a bill. Ben Ark, what do you think? The war in Iran is over. The strait is open. Still doom and gloom from Victoria. There is a major backlog of ships and oil and other things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Trump can't take the credit for this one. I think it's as soon as China gets involved and their money's being messed with, then we get the strait open. But we've long maintained, I think we've spoken about it on the show before, that you have this delay with any press on Bitcoin where people hate to say the word Bitcoin by osmosis and sort of in the air, and they see it in the newspaper when they're reading about the Strait of Hormuz and Iran accepting Bitcoin. And then there's like a little delay where it plants that little seed, And then, they go, oh, I'll Google Bitcoin. And I think at the same time, you've just also got the markets breathing a big sigh of relief. And if you think about it, the world became, when Bitcoin really started to pump up past 100K, that's when the world decided to go much more unstable. And this slump we've had, although it times in, and it's similar to previous bear markets we've had after halvenings. I would say that now we're going into a less risky world. The Bitcoin price could really tick up quite significantly. So hopefully it will continue, just for the sake of world peace and less conflict in the world. But yeah, I imagine that will make the price of Bitcoin go up because, as we said yesterday in the last episode, it is a risk asset and people treat it like a risk asset.
Well, we do keep seeing the same thing where Bitcoin is the first priced actor because Bitcoin's open on weekends, Bitcoin's open in the evening. So if your news event happens in the evenings of the weekend, people are going to say, oh, what's happening in the market? And unfortunately, that market is the Bitcoin market. And they want to see some event, oh, it's important. It's shifting the market. Therefore, Bitcoin must move. And as I've said before, we don't always get this back on Monday when the market opens and everything's fine. Bitcoin doesn't go back to where it was. It doesn't go higher, although it is going higher today.
That's an interesting concept to try and you could probably time some sort of market trades in traditional markets based off the price of Bitcoin because it shows sentiment from traders. That's an interesting idea. Oh, sorry. Thomas has lost his
I think it's back.
ability to hear.
It breaks once per show. Go ahead,
sorry.
Ben.
No, I was just saying that, yeah, that's an interesting concept, but Bitcoin being a barometer for the markets, like an instant barometer. And then you could probably, if you were clever enough, you could probably use Bitcoin. And when it does react to the market as a whole, you could then probably put in some trades before the rest of the market reacts. Like you were saying, there's a delay because they have traditional, Wall Street has traditional market times.
It's interesting, but I'd like to make them stop using Bitcoin as the barometer because it has nothing to do with us. But this does. And now the exit question, predicting the price of Bitcoin. Victoria Jones, will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower this time next week?
Oh, it seems on a bit of a roll, so I'll say higher.
Ben Ark, higher or lower?
I mean, Victoria with a 77%. You beat me, Victoria. I'm third, and you were first. So I gotta go with higher. I'm just gonna whatever Victoria does, I'm gonna do.
And now the real arbiter of truth, the magic 8-ball. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? And it is still spinning. This thing's really not working. Let's see. Says you should see it. It's like on all the sides. My reply is no. My reply is no. The ball is bearish. Moving on to issue 2. Issue 2, BIP 361. Jameson Lopp post on Twitter. I know folks don't like it. I don't like it myself. I wrote it because I like the alternative even less. It isn't a spec, nor is it proposed for activation. It's a rough idea for a contingency plan that needs more R&D. I hope it never needs to be considered for adoption. Ultimately, my thesis is that in the face of existential threat, individual economic incentives outweigh philosophical principles. What is Jameson Lopp talking about? A new proposal that says it will fix the problem with Satoshi's coins by giving Satoshi and other pre-2013 Bitcoin around 5 years to convert the coins to the new quantum standard. And if they don't, the coins will be frozen forever. Ben Ark, what do you think about the new plan by Jameson Lopp to solve the Satoshi coin problem once and for all?
I mean, first you have to admit that there is a problem, which I think some people within the community find it hard to do, in that lots of coins are just going to be gifted to hackers with, a powerful quantum computer. And then once you've done that, You need to think, well, okay, what would the solution be? Would it be something, we do overnight, or would there be a grace period? And I think most people would say that yes, a grace period is probably what you need for people to be able to move their coins over to something which is quantum proof. And that's what BIP 361 is basically saying, that we just have like a grace period where people can move their coins to something quantum proof. And then there'll be a hard stop where then those coins before aren't able to be moved. And in the case of, would be gifted to the hackers. But in the case of Satoshi's coins, the Cardano guy was saying, well, like 1 million of Satoshi's coins are pre-BIP 39, so the whole seed strategy wouldn't work. So in phase 3 of the transition to quantum proof, well, the proposal of BIP 361, in phase 3, that Satoshi's coins would actually just get locked. And they wouldn't be able to move them. And I also don't think that's particularly a bad thing. There's a period in which Satoshi could move his coins, and if he doesn't move his coins, then they're going to get locked, rather than gift them to the quantum hackers. There was some slight embellishments from the Cardano guy. So, like, technically, it is a soft fork. It's not a hard fork. But sort of socially, economically, it feels like a hard fork, because I don't know, there's not really not much choice there, is there? It's like move them or lose them sort of scenario. But yeah, the point which he brought up about Satoshi's coins not being able to be kept safe, but rather they would be just locked, is accurate, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's probably a good thing. Something needs to happen with those coins eventually. But then the ideologues within the community are like saying that it would just become a shit coin, and they would never use that version of Bitcoin because we're confiscating or doing something with Satoshi's coins. And it's like, well, yeah, okay, but the alternative is just some hacker gets them, and then it can really impact markets. Particularly at that point when Bitcoin will be at $600 billion per coin. Like, you could implode the world's economy. So we don't want that, do we?
Not your keys, not your coins, so long as you update. Victoria Jones, this is not the libertarian paradise I was promised. What has Ben talking about?
Yeah, I think it's very dangerous whenever you start to mess too much with Bitcoin's narrative. Certainly when people have been invested in it for a long time, um, you know, especially if you're not a software engineer or you don't understand the technological details of Bitcoin, it does make people very anxious, and it's hard for people to kind of keep up with what's going on. I mean, what often happens when people first get into Bitcoin is they do a hell of a lot of research. They feel like they've understood what they're getting involved in, but what they don't understand is that over time, as things can change with the software, then things can change fairly fundamentally. I mean, obviously, I remember a few years ago there were lots of debates over the fact that Bitcoin's software was now becoming hardened, meaning that it was going to be harder and harder to change in the future. But all of a sudden, we've got Bitcoin Core suddenly, opening up the image size limit on Bitcoin, which has generated the Core v Knots debate. And now, of course, even though quantum computing, my understanding certainly was that until we've got a quantum computer, it's a non-issue. And as far as I know, we haven't yet got a quantum computer, but everyone's kind of having these theoretical discussions about how we protect Bitcoin when quantum computing comes in. And I understand that there is a need for these conversations, but of course, unless you really fully understand what all the issues are, it can make someone very anxious. But again, that's one of the reasons why we have this show. So we've got a chance to kind of break down what some of the issues are. But even then, it doesn't explain it fully comprehensively. It's more like a warning flag to kind of go, you need to go and look at this because something's happening. But it just goes to show how early we are and how much effort needs to be required, if you're going to be involved in Bitcoin at all, because you've constantly got to stay on top of these issues. If they suddenly introduced a change like that and you bought Bitcoin 15 years ago and hadn't looked at it since, thinking, oh, I'm fine, look at the price of Bitcoin, then you come to actually sell your coins and you realize that you should have changed them because they changed the protocol if you haven't moved your coins for the last 10 years. I mean, people are going to be understandably unhappy. So it's a really tricky one. Sometimes they say perfection is the enemy of good. And, at the moment, we don't have anything better than Bitcoin. If we kill it, there's nothing left. And as we're going to talk about with some of the other stories in the show, the way in which the rest of the world is developing is quite dangerous. Bitcoin really is a very powerful way out. But if we ruin it, then there's nothing left. It really is our last bastion for freedom, certainly in my view. So, yeah, I think we need to be very careful.
It would certainly be a tragedy for any individual if they were caught up in this, but for the Satoshi coins themselves. Moving on to the exit question, I want everyone at home, there's one or two people in the chat, you make sure to reply to this. Are we better off without the Satoshi coins? Put all the libertarian philosophy, cyberpunk philosophy aside and just, Ben, you touched on it earlier, these kind of coins could crash the Bitcoin market. They could crash the world market. What if, tomorrow, like we've all prophesized and we said, oh, maybe they lost them or they intentionally lost them. But now Jameson's saying here, literally cut them off. Would we be better off without the Satoshi coins?
I think something needs to happen. They need to move, or they now, while Bitcoin is still small enough for it not to have a horrendous impact on the markets, or they need to be locked, or the very fact that they would move to something quantum proof would obviously be would show that they are still under Satoshi's control. Something needs to happen, because if you don't, you're just gifting them to some quantum hacker. So it's like, I get it. Like, you want to just do an action and say Bitcoin's brilliant and it's going to solve the world's problems. But if we all just do nothing, then the quantum hackers just steal the coins and Bitcoin's dead. So the real concern I had on Victoria's point actually is lots of people time lock their coins. Like, people are much, wiser, the wiser sect in Bitcoin time lock their coins for like 10 years or 20 years, which I think is was a great idea. But I don't know what happens to their coins if they're not, if they can't move them into these quantum proof, using quantum proof cryptography. So yeah, it's. I kind of get the backlash, but then at the same time, I'm like, this is the logical solution. That's the only solution, really. You first admit there's a problem, then you can either do inaction, which is in itself, you're doing something, you're doing nothing, which then means the quantum hackers get them, or try and find a solution. And I feel like a grace period solution is a good solution. I'm sure it's not going to be the last one we hear, but going off the backlash we've had in the community already over that bit, I don't think it's going to be implemented anytime soon.
Ben, would the time lock users also be vulnerable to the quantum attack?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, totally.
So they can't move them. They can't change them. I think that people would just write them off as a percentage loss and say, oh, you messed around with time lock? Whoopsie, you time locked too long. I don't know, they'd have to get mad at Peter Todd Satoshi for that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge incentive for people to build a quantum computer. You get all these lovely Bitcoins. But then ultimately, I suppose the game theory, you would then break Bitcoin and its value proposition if you went and stole all the coins up. So, but yeah, Peter Todd, Adam Back, Nick Szabo, get on it, move the coins, put them somewhere safe.
How close are we to building a quantum computer, though?
We're miles. No, I think we're miles away, Victoria. I think most of it's theoretical. I think the real fear is now you have like all these different technologies colliding together. All the AI stuff and everything. But the last time I spoke to an actual quantum physicist who currently is building a quantum computer, which is Stephen Snyder, who wrote the MBit Python library we use, a Bitcoin library, which I said last week, we have an interview somewhere on the show about it. He wasn't concerned. The variety of people I know who actually know what they're talking about aren't particularly concerned about the problem, but they do admit that it's worth, figuring out solutions, and better to have a solution where you have like grace period, I think, where people can actually, rather than it being a sudden, okay, next year we're going to have quantum computers and everyone panicking.
Previously, I did agree that we were further away from quantum computers, but last month, a report by Google's and others suggested that the quantum computer might be available faster within like a year or a year or two. So this pretty much freaked everyone out, and this is one of the reasons why Jameson Lopp and others have put forth these proposals for Bitcoin to solve the quantum problem. So it is getting hot out there, Ben, for the quantum.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't trust any of these companies because they're
Google,
selling
quantum
their
physicist, you're gonna
That is true. All of the AI companies have promised AGI.
Yeah,
right?
you can't
None
trust
of
them.
have
They're selling
delivered.
their stock, so they're just talking shit. Like it's mostly just theoretical,
or
as well
promoting
as
Ethereum
AGI.
because their transactions are quicker. I mean, that was the
Yeah,
last article we read.
yeah.
Let's go to
Exactly.
Victoria Jones. Are we better off without Satoshi's coins? Should we just seize them, lock them, freeze them for any reason?
Um, I mean, there's a lot of speculation about, Satoshi and what could happen with his coins. I mean, there is a theory that, he's burnt them already, so it's a theoretical fear. I mean, they haven't been used for 20 years since he's been around. I mean, arguably he doesn't have access to the keys anymore. And even if he did, yes, it would be shocking in the moment, but it's a bit like an oil shock. It will probably, it probably have a lingering effect for about 6 months, and then the market would recover, like they often do with these things, like COVID. So I think people worry about it a bit too much. I mean, I think once those coins start to move, it's still going to be unlikely that they're dumped on the market all at once. And it's like anything with a free market. I mean, obviously, if it's got to the stage where it's being used as a worldwide currency, then it could be a problem. But from what I can see, we're a long way off that. So yeah, I think there's plenty of time for more drama to emerge in that respect. But so far, nothing's happened. So not saying it never will, but I'm not losing sleep over it.
So you
Over it,
would,
that's for
so
sure.
Victoria, so you would prefer a solution where we have quantum safe cryptography, which we can all use, but
Mhm.
the coins themselves wouldn't be frozen. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a fair point, I suppose. Yeah,
because that honors what
yeah.
Bitcoin was created to be. I think once you start freezing coins, I think you're introducing all sorts of dynamics into the system, which I think would be very unhelpful, very unfair, and would really destroy Bitcoin's reputation.
Mm.
Mm.
Skeptic 33 in the chat says that it will be Skynet that will build the quantum computer, predicting that the AI will be the first one to claim the coins. So that would certainly be bad. I have a hard time looking at this because I know we all want to be, individual liberty and freedom, and they're your coins, they're your keys, all that kind of thing. As long as you upgrade, I guess is the new motto. But if we think about it, if Satoshi comes back and moves these coins, it's bad for the market. If a pirate or a hacker gets these coins, it's bad for the market. It's bad for everyone. I think that we just need to all pretend that this was Satoshi's wishes and freeze the coins. And we just claim that we found something in the writing that says, oh, these coins, though number 1 through whatever, should be frozen. And I, Satoshi, from above, support this. It's really sad for Satoshi or the Satoshi team. They did one email, one comeback email, and it was, I am not Dorian Satoshi. It could have been, transfer my quantum coins to this address, or something else, some kind of a predictor of this problem, because it would have been better to come back and predict this. But
I mean,
I
it
don't
could
think it is.
it could bring Satoshi out the woodwork generally, like genuinely, it could bring him out the woodwork to say something like, okay, these coins are burnt, freeze them, or move them,
We
and then
we
lose
all
them.
know, Ben, we all know that Dr. Back wouldn't be so stupid. He's not going to move those coins. Come on. Shh. But no, I mean, I think that we can't expect them to move. Nothing good happens if these coins move. it's nice. I think it was nice to say for a while, oh, there's this backlog of 1 million coins that will never be moved. So you can always say Bitcoin's worth the value of 1 million coins that could be offered for and never bought, right? The idea that Andreas would be there to buy them with $1 at the bottom. In the same way, there'd be 1 million that he couldn't buy. I think now we have to look to MicroStrategy for that. MicroStrategy has maybe almost this many coins, and we just have to count on them not to sell and lock these Satoshi coins out, start saying 20 million coins instead of 21 million, change all of our memes. Then we have to change all of our t-shirts. It says Bitcoin 20 now. The Bitcoin 20 million, because they lopped off 1 million from that bastard Satoshi, stole from him, stole from Prometheus, stole from their hero. Yes?
I mean, ultimately, Bitcoin is whatever the majority of people want it to be. That's what Bitcoin is. So, yeah, I'm sure it's not going to be the first or the last contentious issue we have in Bitcoin and proposal we have. And a lot of our ideology is arbitrary, like the 21 million thing. It exists, but when people say deflation's good, and you're like, okay, well, how much is what we've got enough? Should we have more?
Well, and that's the thing. Lops already opened it to, like, I don't understand where the cutoff is, pre-2013 or some technical thing, like you said, Ben, that the coins haven't moved to SegWit or the coins haven't moved to the new quantum bit or whatever. But I don't know. It's a slippery slope, right? Victoria, you love slippery slopes. Oh, they take these coins, they take those coins. Pretty soon they're printing new coins. Well, why shouldn't we print some new coins? We burned off 1 million Satoshi coins. Why not print 1 million new coins?
Exactly. I mean, where does it end? This is something that's always been fundamental to Bitcoin. You start messing with that, you start to mess with what it is. People won't trust it. If you can do something like that, what else can you do? I mean, people are already having that debate over the Bitcoin core and NOTs thing. So,
well,
yeah,
and
there
then
are only so many
we
times you
got
can
Ben
push
out
that
here
envelope.
saying that it's a democracy. Oh, come on, Ben, not a democracy. We've talked before about the Bitcoin triangle, the users, the miners, and the coders, and how the different parts of power spread out. Like, you have to have mining power. It's not just voting, right? It's mining, voting, coding, and then now you have to have the support of the AI, like it said in the chat. They determine things in a lot of places.
The Bitcoin Square, it's got an AI corner now.
Just adding new things all the time. See, nothing is sacred. 21 million coins, Bitcoin triangle, now Bitcoin Square. Well, we'll have to see. I think we're going to talk a lot more about Bitcoin and the quantum proofing of Bitcoin, the Satoshi coins. So harden up your arguments out there. If you're like, waving your fist at the screen, they're sacred. The ownership is sacred. And at the same time, someone else is like, that could ruin all of Bitcoin. Like, even though their investment's not 1 million coins, they're like, that would ruin everyone else. But maybe it would come back.
I mean,
Go ahead, Ben. Would it come back?
I mean, there's a bunch of hacky solutions, but you could do something where you freeze the coins. No, because then you would need to introduce more coins.
You're still making a race where it's like, what, I didn't get to hack the Satoshi coins, but I hacked your contest. And maybe it's even easier to hack your contest because it's pretty hard to hack these Satoshi coins. No one's done it yet. And there's perfectly good reason to.
Yeah, I mean, you could always, in this case of Satoshi, because he's got 1 million coins, which is it's a different to, someone who's got just a small amount of coins. You could do something where you create some fork and then, like, I don't know, secure them in some federation. And then if Satoshi ever turns up again, when Halfin is unfrozen and he remembers his seed, even though it's before seeds, but it's Halfin, whatever. Then you could say, well, okay, let's reintroduce another 1 million coins into Bitcoin. You can have them. Maybe there's I don't know. There'll be a bunch of solutions until we need to make a decision. We've got time.
I think this all goes back to, like, you have to kill your heroes, and that Bitcoin is just the greatest system of all systems, where they said, what about Steve Jobs? What about Bill Gates? And they took back his stock options. They said, you get nothing. You made Apple, you made Microsoft, you made Bitcoin, you get nothing. Cold-blooded, those Bitcoiners. I do think, Ben, we need to lock it down to just the million coins. I worry when we're like, oh, anybody else who happened to mine, although for all we know, they're also Satoshi. Like, to be clear, like to anyone that just assumes Satoshi only mined this one giant set of coins and didn't like periodically get a little bit here and there to anonymous accounts, like someone, a smart person would do. Try to think of what someone smarter than you would do, and do that. If Satoshi didn't do that. What do you think, Ben? Just the Satoshi coins? Should we lock down more?
I don't know, Thomas. That's
You have to make the decision right now. You are the judge and jury.
All right. Okay. Freeze them. Just freeze them. Just make it no longer a problem.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Programming, simplification, chess. Knock those coins off the board. Let's get on to our next problem, which isn't even our problem. It's somebody else's problem. Issue 3. Justin Sun Tron on Twitter writes, I have always been an ardent supporter of President Trump and his crypto-friendly policy. As an earlier supporter who invested heavily in World Liberty Financial, I did so because I believed in the vision that was presented to the public, ... As he says here, what was never disclosed to me or any investor is that World Liberty embedded a backdoor blacklisting function in the smart contract used to deploy WLFI tokens. This is the opposite of decentralization. This is a trapdoor marketed as an open door. Justin Sun took to Twitter complaining about the WLFI. WLFI responded to him, we'll see you in court, buddy. As it says here, Justin Sun spent $175 million to get closer to the Trump family than anyone in crypto. They froze his wallet anyway. You cannot make this stuff up. Justin Sun furtherly went on Twitter and said he wants World Liberty Financial to publicly disclose who controls the single guardian EOA and the 3/5 multisig that govern the WLFI smart contract. In case you guys are wondering, according to this and what I've read, certainly I haven't tried WLFI token myself, the token is currently locked. So none of the people can send the token, none of the people can buy and sell the token, especially a problem for Justin Sun, who originally had $80 million of wealth that he put into this token. His coins, they specifically froze or specifically locked. And as it says here, this guy kind of writes little stories about things. This isn't a real story, but can you imagine someone who bought WLFI tokens because the president of the United States told them to? They stood in line, they bought them, they told their son it was going to make the money, and then they're very sad. They've lost all their money. It's just a great little story about what it was if you bought, $3,200 worth at 0.05 cents. They're non-transferable. There's no market. I cannot sell them. I cannot send them to anyone. I cannot do anything but vote on proposals that the 10 largest wallets have already decided. The money I sent was not locked. That money left immediately. Let's go to Victoria Jones. What do you think about WLFI, the president's coin, and Justin Sun Tron, the owner of the duct tape banana, suddenly waking up to the realities of his horrible investment?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite funny reading through some of the tweets and then seeing some of the comments. I think one of my favorite was, it's the corrupt trying to bring the corruption to justice. I mean, talk about the pot calling the kettle black. I mean, Justin Sun, you're meant to be an intelligent man. Why do you put $75 million into Trump's coin? I mean, did you seriously not think that something like this would happen? I mean, it boggles my mind that, people really bought into the idea of Trump supporting Bitcoin anyway. I mean, I suppose I shouldn't be that surprised because the issues are complicated to understand. But, if you understand the history of finance, Bitcoin is a complete disruption of how traditional finance works. And at the moment, traditional finance relies on government. So Bitcoin inevitably is going to disrupt government. Bitcoin doesn't work with our current political system or our financial system. It doesn't just disrupt money, it disrupts all of it. And so no US president, no president on earth is going to want to support Bitcoin. It does not serve their interests whatsoever. The only people it's going to serve are the people who want to support the people in the community who are looking for disruption, and they will support it for as long as it serves their interests. But once they're in power, you know, governments are centralized. Their money is centralized. The whole point of Bitcoin is it's decentralized, and it gives us a completely new world. It gives us a completely new foundation to work on. Once it's stable, once we've sorted out all of the sticking points, and we've got, you know, the Lightning Network worked, and obviously, you know, we've got a number of years to go before we've done that. But you know, that's the vision. That's what we're heading towards. And people need to understand that clearly. Nothing the government suggests, whether or not it's World Liberty Financial Token or supporting stable coins, is anything in Bitcoin's interest. Bitcoin disrupts all of it. But you know, and not being clear on that vision is always going to leave you confused and always going to lead to you making bad decisions. And you might win in the short term because, after all, it's the president of the United States. But trust me, you rely on them at your peril. So that's my word on the subject.
It's interesting because everyone thinks that Bitcoin is new, but traditional cons work so well. If we go back 100 years when they just started up the stock market, everybody was flim-flamming and it was like the sting. You know, they were bringing in the customers in this door and taking the money out the other door. And Ponzi was just a person with a name running a scheme. It wasn't a whole class of schemes. They've just brought all those back. All the old cons are new. If there's anything you can read about, like an old magic trick, and it hasn't been tried yet, like these prediction markets and other things, you could probably run it now. And it's going to be so obvious when they study the history. They're going to be like, exactly 100 years later, America did the same thing. They used to call it the robber barons, and now they call it the crypto barons. And the terrible pun on the president's son's name is intended. They even, rumors on the internet say that the president's son could be behind a poly market account that wins every time it bets on the price of crypto or the price of stocks after a major announcement made by the administration. Somebody is doing really well. It's interesting to see how these prediction markets are really like a find the insider market. Like, who's an insider that's corrupt? And eventually I think it'll be like Survivor, where after people figure it out, the first one of these insiders is outed, everyone will want to be the insider. Like on Survivor, the lesson from season 1 was be the one that's corrupt, be the one that talks to both sides, is friends with everyone, backstabs them at the end. The lesson from this is have insider information, get on Polymarket, make a bunch of money, maybe even if your name's Baron Trump. What do you think, Ben? Ark, Justin's son, very upset, lost a lot of money.
I mean, just don't shitcoin, even if it's a president shitcoin. Just the rule is do not shitcoin. Don't do anything but Bitcoin. If you don't want to lose your money, just don't shitcoin. Maybe Monero, maybe there's a couple other projects out there which are okay. But yeah, just don't shitcoin. And it doesn't matter that it's the president. And to be fair with Justin's son, like, he was buying the president's favor and it worked. Like, he walked away from the SEC and his charges and he didn't go to prison. So that's the cost of not going to prison, is for him $175 million. And I'm sure it worked in other ways as well. I'm sure he got the value back. But I think he knew what he was doing. He was buying a shitcoin to buddy up to the president. And I think now it's just a public display. He doesn't mean it. He's just, what would he expect? So it's just now the court case has been settled. He's just able to publicly say, oh, this thing locked my coins. No, isn't it sad? So his users, whoever else he pushed or convinced to buy the coins as well, have also suffered. Yeah, don't shitcoin. There's no point. And I want to something Victoria said as well about Lightning and Bitcoin, actually. Something which is really underreported over the past year has been the leaps and bounds we've made in Bitcoin and micropayments on the technology side. Because honestly, a lot of the sticking points and the painful parts of using something like Lightning, such as running your own node, they've really come along over the past year. So we've had Spark L2 launch, which is a state chain with unilateral exits, so your coins are safe. We've got Arc that's starting to fire up and be used, and we're using it now in bits, and it's cool. Like I can have microtransactions. I can have Bitcoin microtransactions in a self-custodial way without running a Lightning node. And yeah, I think it positions us really nicely for when Bitcoin's cool again, when the AI bubble pops, when Bitcoin price is going up and people looking to put their money somewhere. The technology's really come a long way. I'm very, very bullish. For a period, like everyone else, I was worried because we were moving so slow, but people have been building, and there's some cool solutions being built out there. But that's just a side note. The Trump stuff, like, just never shitcoin. Even if it's the president, don't shitcoin. Don't do it.
It does seem surprising. You roll into pump.fun and a username, the president, and then you check it out, and it's really them. And it seems like a good thing. But I agree, Ben, it seems a lot like a bunch of criminals complaining, like Reservoir Dogs, just hanging out. And, oh, the price for my pardon was too much. Oh, you paid less for yours. You got a good deal. And it's like that scene in Empire Strikes Back where he comes and he says, pray I don't alter the deal any further. And Justin Sun, apparently he got his deal, and now he's complaining about it. And we're just supposed to believe like he didn't know that he was walking into this trap and this nest of thieves, and his clever little trapdoor explanation. Still, nice to see it if he's woken up, whatever it is. Moving on to the exit question. What about CZ? You can't talk about Justin Sun without talking about CZ. According to Forbes Digital Assets, CZ is out of prison. Crypto's richest billionaire tells almost all in a new memoir. Pardoned after his firm pled guilty to failing to effectively police money laundering, Changpeng Zhao offers a whitewashed account in Freedom of Money of how he built Binance and became one of the world's richest people. Ben Ark, you mentioned it slightly. Justin Sun got a pardon too. He got to have dinner with the president. But what about CZ? CZ seems like he just got off scot-free, and he's certainly not out here complaining on Twitter.
Just got to pay the piper, pay him off. I mean, for anyone in trouble in the US, and they've got money, it's ideal at the moment. You can just pay for your pardon. Pardons for sale. But CZ, yeah, I remember that video with the funds are Seifu video. This is the best video ever in Bitcoin. Your funds are Seifu. We've been talking to miners, and we're gonna revert all the transactions. Yeah, it's the world we're in, and it's kind of sad. I don't like this normalization of hustling, like, oh, I'm a hustler, so I'll just fuck everyone over and make as much money as I can. And it's now been normalized to the leader of the free world. And quite often, like you said before, like that rational market participant just getting as much for themselves and screw everyone else. Like, actually, that's not how countries are supposed to run. That's not how governments are supposed to run. I mean, I know they have historically, and I'm not maybe naive for wanting more, but yeah, a bit more altruism and less selfishness, I think, is what's key here.
Well, remember, Ben, you have to look at this from Brian Armstrong's perspective. He runs Coinbase. He runs the uptight, serious, regulated exchange. He did everything right. He's a startup guy. But here's CZ that kept moving his company to a different country whenever they had a tax problem. And you would think in the old systems, they would make an example of CZ. However, here he is completely escaping, not in any trouble, writing his memoir, no problems at all, while Justin Sun apparently chuffed a little bit at his $80 million loss on World Liberty Financial. There is an update in the chat. They're saying that Richard Hart has been removed from the Europool most wanted list. And according to Google AI, it does say as of April 2026, Richard Hart is still being sought, but his status on specific lists has fluctuated. He's been removed from the EU most wanted list. He's still facing a quote Interpol red notice and investigations in Finland. Despite the dismissal of the U.S. case, Hart remains a fugitive from European, not U.S. authorities. So there's a brief update on Richard Hart as well while we're doing the crime section of the show. Victoria Jones, what do you think about CZ? He's written a book. Everything is fine.
Yeah, I mean, I was quite interested in some of the snippets actually. One of the things he mentioned was that in spite of the fact that I think Vogue magazine put him on their front cover in a hoodie in 2017 when he went to prison, he was obviously very anxious that people would recognize him and give him a hard time. But apparently nobody did. Apparently no one in prison reads Vogue or is interested in crypto or blockchain or cryptocurrency. And so, he said the worst thing about being in a prison cell was he was sharing a prison cell with someone who'd murdered two people, and the most threatening thing about him was that he snored at night. So yeah, some interesting anecdotes from sharing his story. So, clearly he's got to see the inside of a prison cell. Hopefully that'll make him a bit more careful in future. But, obviously, he, like many people who take big risks, he rolled the dice and, managed to get away with it. Another snippet they were talking about was when the FTX scandal broke, because, of course, a lot of people blamed him for sparking that, but I think he spent a whole year talking to 6 different types of lawyers, and I read that and I was kind of like, I seriously would not want to be living through that. So he's he's taken on a fair amount of stress. I I think when Binance was first invented, it was one of the most stable places where you could buy and sell cryptocurrencies, and for a long time, people got a lot out of that. I'm grateful that he invented it. Obviously, as with all of these stories, there are, I mean, we're dealing with corruption everywhere. That doesn't excuse it, but sometimes with the bad comes the good. And you can't eliminate all the bad. You just have to make the best of every situation that we're presented with, and I think that's what he's done. So
Well, this isn't the book that I want to read. This is the made for TV version of the CZ story. I want to hear from his assistant after the thing is blown up, after everybody's in jail or hiding or run off. I'd also like to hear from John McAfee's assistant and from anybody involved in this polycule. Where is my cool made for TV movie about the polycule and all the different emotions that Sam Bankman-Fried and Caroline, she's left in the corner, but she's the center of the polycule. How can she be left in the corner? I don't understand.
We've got a decent collection of ex-cons now, haven't we, in Bitcoin? Or not Bitcoin,
and we've got a decent collection of storylines. I mean, just wait until the film industry gets on top of all of this. It'll keep them busy for like 10 years just replaying the story of the crypto industry.
I still want my non-linear Netflix series where it's like the history of Bitcoin and all the shit going around it and whatever, just all the stories, the big stories. But I want it done in kind of a non-linear way where it starts off and like Roger Ver's this like crazy, wild-eyed lunatic guy shilling his shitcoin and running away from Spanish authorities or whatever, and then in the next series he's like this suave, bright, up and coming crypto bro, because in the next episode, because he goes like back in time or something, and then people just kind of different characters like drift in and out of, so they'll be like, one of the stories could be on the Bitfinex, and that could be like one of the episodes, but different characters from the industry kind of drift in and acting as they would at that particular point in history, and then so it's like a non-linear Netflix show, and it could just go on forever. You could just have multiple series of it because, like you said, there's just such a rich backlog of stories, which is really interesting, and all of them would be great dramatized.
And it'd be an open-ended series because, of course, the story is ongoing.
You're just going to wait a little bit and wait a few months, and then you got
wait
another
for the next
series.
chapter, and they need to hire us as consultants because we've been commenting on it for so long. They need someone with the inside scoop.
I definitely think similar to Ben's idea, if it was all like just one big panel and it was like Charlie Shrem, Mark Karpellis, Sam Bankman-Fried, CZ, Justin Sun Tron, like some of the early ones, Pirate at 40, some of these classic scammers no one talks about anymore, and just asking them questions. And it would be great if they had a little back and forth too. And one of them was like, "Oh yeah, we did that," or "Oh,
Oh
we
my
used
God,
to cook spaghetti sauce in jail," or
you could
whatever
have
it was. Just some
you
kind
could
of
yeah have the BitCon conference where you've got to be a con in order to speak on the stage. Like you've got to have been to prison for just yeah, for Bitcoin or the wider industry. The BitCon conference.
I think from a Futurama perspective, you could say that Bitcoin's so important in the future that when they discovered time travel technology, the first thing they did was go back and get these Bitcoin people so they could ask them questions. Because everyone's just completely focused on the Bitcoin era. And you can kind of see it now as some of these stories we're talking about and generally bringing up today. I mean, all of the banks are into crypto. Like we've won. Like we're not like a little itty bitty project anymore, all of that. And in the same way, if all of the banks are into crypto and all of the New York Times and everyone's starting to write about allegedly that Adam Back is Satoshi or Peter Todd is Satoshi, at a certain point, all of these things, Justin Sun Tron, Vitalik and Ethereum, all of these things are going to be incredibly worth studying. And people are going to have to go back and probably have the AI watch the World Crypto Network
I
for.
think so, man. I mean, it's been the constant thread. It's the oldest Bitcoin podcast, and we've covered literally everything on here. So, yeah, it's a great treasure trove of info.
Hopefully we can be in the movies or the TV show in the background. They can like cut to us and see what we were saying at the time, like in that great movie Dave. But let's move on to issue 4. There's always one more. Issue 4, the United States stablecoin bill. It's not the Bitcoin bill. It's not the cryptocurrency bill. It's the stablecoin bill. It turns out that this entire revolution was about giving you a coin where the price doesn't move. You can't get rich or poor. And it can be blocked, locked, tracked, everything that you want in a coin from the stable coins. As it says here, Brian Armstrong allegedly did a 180 on the Clarity Act, killing it twice, now calling a strong bill. Nothing has changed, but it's time to pass the bill. It's time to drive the price up, and the price is now up. JP Morgan says the bill is close to passing. Stablecoin regulation is now in a good place. That is to say, the banks are going to wipe out their competitors. The crypto revolution is now down to stable coins. Victoria Jones, they promised us so much. They elected a president. They had him speak at their convention. And now we're getting a stablecoin bill.
Yeah, I mean, stable coins are just central bank digital currencies by another name. I mean, they just keep changing. They just keep changing the name. You know, ever since 2017, it was blockchain, not Bitcoin. And then it was CBDCs. And then, you know, clearly there was a backlash against the idea of CBDCs. But, you know, all of our traditional currencies are central bank currencies. All you've done is just made it digital. So you've now got a central bank digital currency. That is what a stable coin is. And obviously, you know, for a period of time while everyone was getting into Bitcoin, they had a role in helping people to trade Bitcoin. But now, of course, you know, rather than trying to invent their own digital currencies, they're just like, you know, why don't we just go on the back of those? And they've already been stories of them you know, blocking USDT transactions and other stable coin transactions. And so, you know, the stage is set. You know, they've just leapfrogged over any effort they had to make. They just allowed us to create it, and now they're gonna hijack it in order to get what they always wanted in the first place. It's so transparent and unfortunate. But yeah, that's what it is, unfortunately. And so, you know, as much as there was talk at one point about the fact they wanted Donald Trump to pass a bill to ban CBDCs, all they've done is that they've just removed CBDCs from the lexicon, and they're now legitimizing stablecoins. So we'll get our CBDCs that way instead.
It is definitely the point in the story where they try to hijack the open and free network like radio or television or music or any of these things and replace it with the DRM version, with the digital rights management version of Bitcoin. Sure, you could use Bitcoin, but stablecoin is so much better and so much easier to use. So I think we're going to go through this again. I think Bitcoin will still be there. I think that it's a better product and that it's going to continue to be there. I think they're offering people a less good product, and people are going to see through that. Ben Ark, what do you think? Will stablecoins win the day?
Yeah, I mean, it's more importantly, it, indirectly buys up US debt, which, is a dream for the US. It's pretty genius as a play. But Trump, really, he's an uncapped dream, because he just wants to privatize everything, and that's why he's there, to privatize everything, including the production of money, but not in a cool, decentralized way, which we have in Bitcoin, in a way where private companies control money production, and then are also buying up US debt. So Tether is a private company, and it's like, is that the future you want, where there's these private companies with that level of control? I don't personally want that. I think we need to do, and again, we've said this a bunch on the show, I think stable coins are important because people who want access to digitally native medium of exchange, they need it to be stable. Bitcoin doesn't work for them. But I think we need like some bright, cleverer ways of doing it where it doesn't involve a private company just running it and doing whatever they want and getting insanely rich off the back of it. And there's solutions out there too for creating stable pegs. And I hope to see it. I hope to see that sort of natively built on Bitcoin, and some sort of fancy mechanism for. I always like the DAO, the MakerDAO way of doing it, where you have arbitrage where you could buy and sell to the contract. You could buy and sell in order. So if it ducks below the stable peg to USD or whatever, then you get it cheap, so you buy it, and then if it goes above, you've made a profit, so you sell it. So you do high frequency buying and selling to some decentralized thing, which then keeps a stable peg. I think that's still interesting. But yeah, there's solutions out there for making stable coins without having to have like Tether the company, and I think that is the answer. And you do need stable medium of exchange for Bitcoin to work as money, but you really want it built on Bitcoin. You don't want it to be owned by a private company.
It's almost like a game of telephone where we want something and they just can't hear what it is, and they say, "Oh, you don't like the Federal Reserve? You want the privatization of money? Oh, well, here you go. It's corporate money. It's run by Microsoft. It's run by Intel. This is better money." But again, it's the worst possible money. And we are truly trapped in the RoboCop future, where they had the privatized police department. And now the police department is run by corporations, and they're trying to run up their numbers and get more arrests and make more money off the people. The same thing here with now the money's going to be run by corporations. If you didn't think the Fed was effing you enough in the old system, wait till you see the new system where the corporate Fed can really get you, and all kinds of new insider things can be tried. So I think it's a very exciting development. We have a lot of great things to look forward to in the future. But let's head on to the quick stories. We've got a lot of quick stories today. How PayMe's 3.3 million users and Hong Kong firms could start using stablecoins, not Bitcoin, stablecoins. HSBC eyes retail stablecoin rollout via PayMe in the second half of 2026 as Standard Chartered led joint venture focus on institutions first. So we have a lot of possibilities there in Hong Kong. Charles Schwab launching direct Bitcoin Ether trading to compete with Robinhood. Charles Schwab, one of the recent ones to join trading, competing with Robinhood and Coinbase. Goldman Sachs seeking approval for a new Bitcoin ETF. Let's go quick to the panel. What do you think? Large player in Hong Kong, Goldman Sachs seeking Bitcoin ETF approval, and Charles Schwab now offering direct trading. It's just all banks, all positive for Bitcoin. Victoria Jones, what do you think?
Yeah, but I think a lot of them are buying into Michael Saylor's narrative that Bitcoin is just digital gold and it's never going to be usable as a currency. And if that's what they believe, more fool them. Because yes, it may well be that that's where Bitcoin's development is right now, but it's not what it was intended for. And it's already been designed in such a way that it works as an everyday currency. Things really started to get screwed up for the average person on the ground once they took gold out of circulation as a currency. That's the point at which inflation really started to take off, and we've now got skyrocketing poverty levels. You really have to dig through the data in order to figure that out. I've got a talk on my YouTube channel called Bitcoin and Poverty where I go into it in more detail. But if you look at the numbers properly, ever since they took gold out of circulation as a form of money, that's when our poverty levels started to skyrocket because a lot of our metrics got distorted. So obviously it's not seen everywhere. You've got, a broad number of people who are doing moderately well, but the amount of poverty that is around is getting greater and greater. And a lot of the inequity is due to the fact that our money has become corrupted. And having Bitcoin as a form of digital currency was designed to alleviate that by being a form of digital gold. But one that's used in circulation, not one that's just stored by the banks. So I think at the moment the banks are feeding on their ignorance in terms of taking on these platforms. But as I've said before, it's like allowing the Trojan horse into the city. It's just as well that they're doing that now. I think once they really realize what they've done, ultimately they're opening the door to helping Bitcoin disrupt the existing system in a major way. They just don't realize it yet, and Bitcoin is not quite matured enough to get to that stage. And I hope everyone does everything they can to protect it until we get to that stage.
It is worth noting that the stable coins are not stable at all. They're linked to the US dollar, which is affected by inflation, affected by the actions of the US government, the stock market, everything else. So it is interesting how this stable coin concept and even the word stable coin, we could call them USD linked coin. There's nothing really stable about it, except that I suppose it has a $1 value. But we've already been through this before. The dollar value goes up and down in pounds. It goes up and down in euros, right? It affects the price of goods, and inflation. The number of dollars in circulation affects that. So it's interesting to see stable coin adopted. I guess it's better than ICO. It's a better word than, like Ben was saying, blockchain, not Bitcoin. Ben Ark, what do you think? Goldman Sachs, Charles Schwab, and Hong Kong and more now all accepting Bitcoin.
I mean, with stable coins, like, John Maynard Keynes suggested a basket of assets for the bank core, which I think is a great idea. You don't just peg it to a currency, you could peg it to a bunch of currencies and then maybe some assets. Maybe those assets as well could be exports. This is what I wanted in El Salvador when the El Salvador thing happened. I wanted them to have something pegged to the price of coffee, the dollar, and I don't know, something else. And then there would be an incentive then to if it was pegged to the price of coffee to increase I don't know, output or whatever. But you could have stable coins which are more resilient to price fluctuations. Just pegging a stable coin to a currency is dumb, and particularly the USD, which is in an inevitable death spiral. But Victoria's dead right. Like, Bitcoin is designed to be money. It's not just digital gold. Yes, you can store your wealth in it and it goes up in value, but the reason it has a value proposition and the reason it goes up in value is because of what it is as a technology, and it is a technology for transferring value. And that's the thing in which we've all been building for, and that's what gives it value is the work and effort which goes in by all the people who are building on top of it, in all sorts of different ways, contributing in all sorts of different ways, community, whatever. But that's what we've been building for. And I think there is like a naivety in Wall Street when it comes to the running a treasury. Like, inevitably they look at strategy and they're like, okay, eye-watering gains, we want a piece of that pie. But if we've seen with Naka or Nakamoto Holdings, like, you need strategy has Michael Saylor, who's goes through all the WCN videos, pulls out all the best bits, goes on CNBC, and then regurgitates it in a very elegant way. And that has value. So, you know, when people buy strategy, they're partly buying Michael Saylor, whereas these other treasury companies don't have that. And I think that's why, because when I first heard about NACA, I thought, well, that's a cool idea. I can't see why it wouldn't go up in value, but they don't have Michael Saylor. They haven't got a Michael Saylor. So I quite like the fact that these, because at one point I was like, well, why would anyone make anything ever again? You just buy Bitcoin and then borrow against the Bitcoin, buy more Bitcoin, get people to invest in your company, use the money to buy more Bitcoin, and then increase the value of your company and do nothing, just keep buying Bitcoin, which is what strategy did. But actually, it's not just that process, it's also the fact that you've got Michael Saylor on CNBC selling the thing. So yeah, like the all these companies getting into Bitcoin, building treasuries, like some of their investors and some of the people, the hyper investors, the people they're dealing with will want exposure to Bitcoin, and this gives them easier exposure to Bitcoin. And ultimately, it's not bad for, Bitcoin getting as a Trojan, getting in, as a backdoor, like going into the system and then infecting it with Bitcoin and getting more people used to having Bitcoin. Because ultimately, like at some point, the people who are investing with these big banks and companies and whatever else, they'll be like, well, why do I need you? I can just go get some Bitcoin and put it on a hardware wallet and I'm okay. Which is true of a lot of these investors. Like, yeah, that there's a bunch of pension funds or whatever who need to invest in something which is accredited, but there's also just a bunch of really rich people who, they're financial managers or advisors. They go through one of these big banks and eventually they'll just be like, well, I'll just buy the Bitcoin myself. So it is the Trojan being put behind enemy lines. And Bitcoin is there to kill them. That's why it exists. So it's kind of funny watching it play out. It's a bit like software, to be honest. It's like IBM trying to take down free and open source Linux and free and open source in general. And then decades later, companies like Microsoft and IBM are huge free and open source contributors, and a lot of their infrastructure relies on free and open source because actually it makes sense. It's similar to these banks. I don't think they're going to die. It's not going to kill them completely, but they're going to have to get used to this brave new world where Bitcoin exists alongside them, and they just have to embrace it. Like, they have no choice.
Well, and I think, Ben, you just detailed the next 5 to 10 years of Michael Saylor's life, because right now he doesn't believe in sending Bitcoin around at all. And for him, this simplifies Bitcoin. I talked about the Bitcoin triangle or the Bitcoin square earlier. One of those pegs of the triangle is the coders. And if you don't need to send it around, you don't need the Lightning Network. You don't need all this layering and scaling and all this other stuff. All the Bitcoin's going to be held by MicroStrategy and Goldman Sachs and 5 other companies, right? Why would they let any of it move? Sure, some hobbyists might move it, but who's even going to support that network? They're not interested in mining Bitcoin. He's not contributing to the open source foundations. He's not out there talking to the coders, right? He has digital gold. He just wants to recreate this smog situation where he sits on top of his gold and it never moves. But again, Ben, you're previewing like it's a Christmas carol, like we're visiting the different ghosts to Michael Saylor, and he's like, do you really think I should think about the software? You think I should think about the coders? Oh, I don't care about the coders. Get them out of here. And, he's Scrooge, of course. And he's getting visited by the ghosts. And he thinks he doesn't need these people, but he's going to need them in the future. And he's going to come around, like you say, Ben. He'll be like Microsoft. He'll be open sourcing parts of Windows. And he'll be saying, oh, I wish the coders could come work on my project. Oh, I wish we had more coders on Bitcoin. That it turns out that diverse ecosystem of all the ways you can send it was underlying the value of my digital gold. It wasn't just valuable because it was shiny and it stayed in one place. But he's not there yet. I don't know, Ben. It's going to take a long time.
Scrooge McDuck swimming in his big swimming pool full of money. I'm a strong believer that Bitcoin is very similar to gold, in fact. And Saylor's right, but we're currently at I found a shiny rock, so I'm going to hold my shiny rock stage, because this shiny rock's beautiful, and one day oh, I can give you the shiny rock for your house. Cool. You take the shiny rock, I'll have your house. Nice. Um, and then you'll be like, well, do you know what? I can actually use some of this shiny rock to fix that. I've got a filling I need doing in my teeth, or Victoria, whatever you'd use gold for in your teeth. You're the dentist. I don't know. It's fillings, isn't it? Fillings or gold teeth? Maybe gold teeth. I want a gold tooth, so I'm
And
gonna
normally
go.
inlays, but you know, that's
There we
old
are.
technology. They don't use them as much anymore.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, okay. I've got a computer then, and I need some gold in there because gold's pretty good at conducting electricity, um, and then you end up with all these commodity use cases. And I think that's Bitcoin's story. Like, we found the thing, it's valuable. I can give you a big lump, and you give me a house. And then there's probably beyond just medium exchange as well. There's probably a whole bunch of commodity use cases we'll find. And
Well,
just
even
like gold, I
recently,
think that's how you get sort of price stability because it's hard to move the price of gold because most of it's out there around the necks of Indian wives and in people's teeth and in electronics and wherever else. There's a very thin layer of people actually trading this stuff, and I think that's what we want for Bitcoin: a thin layer of people actually trading it, and then the majority of people actually using it for something.
well, if you look at the first story from last week, Iran wanting Bitcoin in exchange for passage through the Straits of Hormuz. They didn't just want it because it was digital gold. They wanted it because it could be sent to them. It was useful. It was like a currency. It couldn't be confiscated. It can't be affected by sanctions. None of these things are true about stable coins, by the way. Iran could not just accept stable coins for a transfer through the strait. And that's why the stable coins will lose. That's why the Bitcoin will win. And this is all a story about why Michael Saylor will have to come around and support all of Bitcoin, not just the digital gold part that seems shiny and fun at first. We've got a couple more quick stories. Bhutan, the little Bitcoin country that could, has now sold 70% of its Bitcoin in 18 months. Their holdings have dropped from 13,000 Bitcoin to around 3,954. It also seems like they've stopped mining. So the little story that could of Bhutan hydro mining Bitcoin early seems to be them cashing out for lots of money. Still pretty early. FBI says crypto-related fraud losses hit a record $11.4 billion in 2025, with seniors bearing the brunt. We talk about this story every 3 weeks or so. Seniors especially are getting taken in, and they're taking their money to the Bitcoin ATMs and they're sending it to scammers. This has nothing to do with Bitcoin, nothing to do with the Bitcoin ATMs, but as predicted here on this show, I think the Bitcoin ATMs will pay the price, and we'll see the FBI and others targeting Bitcoin ATMs in the future. Liberal Democrats in the United Kingdom call for an inquiry into Nigel Farage Bitcoin deal. It says that there's Nigel's promotion of a $2 million cryptocurrency purchase. They want to investigate whether his actions amount to attempted interference in the cryptocurrency market or attempted market abuse. A spokesman for Farage said the event was a photo call, and Mr. Farage is embracing the 21st century. He brought $2 million of crypto on behalf of Stack and not personally. It says that Farage has put 215,000 pounds into the company, and owes 6.3% of its shares through his investment vehicle, Thorn in the Side Limited. Labour has described Farage's involvement in the venture as a bid to line his own pockets. So let's go to the Brits first. What do you think about Nigel Farage and the Bitcoin fighting with the Labour Party? Victoria Jones, go ahead, start us off.
Yeah, I mean, I read the article and it was very fear-mongery. I mean, they really hyped a lot of the details and kind of made them scarier than it did. I mean, for a start, if you go back to Kwasi Kwarteng when apparently Liz Truss collapsed the financial markets. I mean, there was a lot more going on in that story. Just the fact that it was Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss, and apparently they had these crazy ideas. I mean, the main mistake they made is they didn't run their ideas past the Office for Budget Responsibility before they actually implemented them. So that's one of the reasons why the markets crashed. And there's also been evidence to suggest that the Bank of England played up to it, which kind of made the whole situation way worse than it could have been. So there was a lot more to just that situation that they're bringing up. So of course, they're referring to our ex-chancellor in a very scathing way when there was more to that story. As for Nigel Farage lining his own pockets, I mean, that's just par for the course for any politician, isn't it, really? And anyone who knows they're onto a good thing. I mean, all of us have invested in Bitcoin because we think that it's the currency of the future. So, she's basically tarring every Bitcoiner with the same brush just because we're interested in Bitcoin. Does that all mean that we're reprobates? And clearly the author of that article thinks that we are, but without having a clear understanding of what Bitcoin is, why it's being invested in. I mean, one of the reasons why Nigel Farage is even talking to the ex-chancellor is because when they made those changes in the budget, it was because they wanted to bring in a form of free market economics which is supported by Bitcoin. So there's a whole lot of information below that story that was not revealed in the article. From my perspective, it was very biased, not particularly balanced. The tone of the article was clearly disparaging of Nigel Farage and everyone involved in that story. So, and anyone with a modicum of sense can pick that up from reading the article, and that already tells you that the information you're going to get from it is fairly limited. So I wasn't impressed. There's nothing particularly shocking in that story.
We have heard from our insiders in the UK that the Liberal Democrat Party, the Labour Party, doesn't like Bitcoin, and they might even be targeting people with taxes and additional investigations. So that would be very bad. Ben,
But it's like we said before, it's no government on the planet is going to be supported by Bitcoin. So it's not surprising that they're against it. It's not a shock.
And Ben Ark, what do you think about Bhutan selling and the Bitcoin ATMs whose days are numbered?
I want to talk about the Farage story because I think it's really interesting. I hadn't actually read the article, but it's just funny that the Liberal Democrats think that Farage buying $2 million worth of, or £2 million worth of Bitcoin is going to budge the Bitcoin price, and it's like market manipulation. It just shows how completely insane they are. I mean, Farage is a dick, but at least, he knows what Bitcoin is and is buying some. But they're all lunatics. All of the British parties are just, I quite liked. I went to Cheat Code a couple of weeks ago, which is Peter McCormack's conference. We did the points of sale there, and then also, we just went to the conference, and it was really interesting. It kind of felt depressing, like, in a way. Peter McCormack, he looked very deflated, and he talked about being blackpilled in that he's just given up on everything and he's just going to focus on his family, on his local community and some Bitcoin stuff, and he's just going to stop trying to engage with these larger powers. And he didn't say it explicitly, so I don't want to put words in his mouth, but there was a noticeable change from the conference from the year before, because I think the cheat code the year before had Liz Truss and Farage, I think. A bunch of politicians there. And it seemed that Peter McCormack was trying to enact change by going through politicians, even fringe politicians. I suppose, I don't know if you can call reform fringe now, but whatever. Whereas this year, he'd just kind of given up. He's like, oh, bollocks to it all. And although it felt kind of depressing, at the same time, it was good. I was like, yeah, good. Like this, just give up on all of them. They're all idiots. Just buy Bitcoin, like work on the things you can actually enact change with, which is just buying Bitcoin, talking about it, using it. And just give up on that stuff. Like, yeah, okay, vote. I'm not saying don't vote, but don't put any faith in these people. They're morons. The very fact that the Lib Dems think that the £2 million buy is going to impact anything in Bitcoin is insane. It's a nothing burger. So yeah, And the Labour are just as bad for being complete technical lunatics, idiots. Don't know what the
It's
answer is.
interesting, but sad to see Peter give that up because that's kind of where his power was. His power wasn't really in technology; it was in the social layer. He interviewed the top 100 in Bitcoin. He roared into the scene. He had incredible popularity as the whole story with the football team,
Yeah, he's
mirroring
he's
the
he's great.
Welcome to Wrexham story. Are you saying it's all over, Ben? I mean, I don't know. I've never spoke to him, but is he that down about things?
No, I mean he stopped what Bitcoin did, and then he worked on his podcast, just Peter McCormack podcast, where he was interviewing lots of politicians. And again, I don't want to put words in his mouth. There was no politicians there this year. There was just Bitcoiners and good Bitcoiners as well, because we're in that bear market, that beautiful bear market where it just shakes out all the knobheads. And I think I was doing a panel or something. I was on stage and I was looking at everyone in the audience. And I was thinking, everyone here is here because they get it. They understand what Bitcoin is and they understand how powerful it is and how it can make the world a better place. And they're not here for the quick buck. They're here because they actually understand the thing. And just talking to people in the audience, talking to people who went to the conference, like, yeah, they were good, interesting. Bitcoiners are cool. They're interesting people. They're nice people to hang out with, and they're sort of socially engaged, and they want the world to be a better place, and they're excited about things. They're great people to hang out with, and I think Peter thought that he could branch out from that into the political world, and just realized it's all a bunch of icky lizards you don't really want to hang out with. They're terrible lunatics. And yeah, I think that it was kind of a good sentiment. I was happy for him. I was like, good for you, man. Like, fuck them all. Just concentrate on your nearest and dearest and things which can actually help, such as Bitcoin. So, but I can't remember how we got onto that. Oh yeah, politicians and Bitcoin.
Well, I might get to go to the Las Vegas convention again this year in a few weeks, and I don't know if I'm going to see those kind of Bitcoiners that Ben's talking about. I think I'm going to see more of the finance bros, and they're here to fix Bitcoin. We're running out of time. The dogs are barking. I've got one or two more short stories. Meet the terminally ill developer behind 120 hours on Pump.Fun. He launches the coin claiming he only has 120 hours to live. Says all trading fees will go to his family. Says he doesn't even know what a rug pull is. The community apes in out of sympathy. The coin rips to a $534,000 market cap. The developer completely rugs the token. His X account goes offline instantly. He disappears with the money. The whole thing was a sympathy play from the start. He used a fake deathbed story as exit liquidity. This is how low sympathy rugging has gotten. This shouldn't be forgotten. And we have one more. Inside Doug Liman's $70 million AI-made movie starring Casey Affleck and Gal Gadot, Bitcoin Killing Satoshi will be looking for buyers at Cannes and is filmed as the first fully generated studio quality AI film. They say they're not going to mess with the performances, but instead of using sets or traveling to locations or even setting up green screens and filming backgrounds like a video game or Unreal Engine or any of the things that are done, they've actually used AI to make the background and the sets. The film, originally called Killing Satoshi, has now been changed to Bitcoin Killing Satoshi. Victoria Jones, what do you think about the 120 hours on Pump Fund, the low that scammers are willing to go, and the Bitcoin movie? Something to look forward. I wish it was a real movie. I wish they traveled places, but I guess we're getting an AI movie. I'll go see it, but I wish it was a real movie. Victoria, what do you think?
I think it will be a real movie. I'm sure, the end result will be quite spectacular. Because, AI is just a tool like any tool. It's just a very powerful brain that knows how to think quicker than humans, but it doesn't replace our emotions. It doesn't replace our creativity. So, you're kind of bringing the two together to, up level films of the past, and apparently the film requires many locations. It would have been horrendously expensive to film if they'd tried to do it the traditional way, and so by using AI they've got a way of actually producing the thing without those costs, without compromising on any of the imagery. And I think if they focus on the actors, that's what brings the emotion and the scenes to life, and then with the AI creating everything else, I think the end result actually could be quite good. I'm looking forward to seeing it. And as for that scam, I mean, really, how can, honestly, I despair of humanity really when I hear of those stories. That's just terrible. But
It is the
this is the world we
darkest.
live in.
And as you read through the story, at first I thought I was reading a story where it would be like the guy was really dying, he raised some money, his family's happy. You know, I don't know where the story is going to go, but then of course it goes the same place. Everybody gets scammed, everybody gets rugged, wasn't even sick in the first place. And it is interesting, like you said, Victoria, about the movie, and it said in the article, Casey Affleck is in the film. His brother Ben Affleck just made a major AI company, like an AI filmmaking company, sold it to Netflix for a ton of money. So for all we know, as strange as saying that it has AI sets or whatever's going on in the film, this could be the new normal, the normal way of doing filmmaking. We know on TV, a lot of times the person will be standing in front of a railing and in the background will be New York City and the background is a green screen. It's too expensive to shoot in New York City, things like this. Ben, what do you think? The new movie, Bitcoin Killing Satoshi, and 120 hours of scam on Pump Fun.
Yeah, the don't shitcoin. If it's the president, if it's a guy dying on a hospital bed, don't shitcoin. The shitcoin people are thoroughly unscrupulous. I remember once I was at Polis, and there was some of these, like, because these Pump Fun people, they hop on a thing. It's all it I don't know, like, excuses really bad behavior. That's the whole point of the name of the thing. Like, anyway, so I was speaking to some of them, and some of the things they had launched, I was just like, ooh, that's gross. There was some meme with some autistic kid, and then they found the autistic kid, and then launched it with the autistic kid, then rugged, and then went on to the next thing. And they were telling me like they were proud of it, and I was like, you're just bad people. Like, you're just not good people. Like, it's not funny. It's not cool. And yeah, that's the wild west of shitcoinery, Pump Fun. So just don't shitcoin. You should never shitcoin. My favorite ill person Bitcoin story was, I remember on Reddit years ago, I think it was like Bitcoin was like $400 or something. And there was a guy on Reddit, he was terminally ill, and he'd sold his house and he'd bought Bitcoin with it. And then he time locked the Bitcoin. And he was on Reddit and he just wrote a post about it. And everyone in there, all the Bitcoiners, were like, dude, that's pretty sketch. Like, you should leave some cash as well for your family. And he's like, no, it's going to work out. I'm not going to leave the cash. And I would love to know how that worked out, because I hope they kept the keys and whatever, they could access the coins, because it was a masterful play. And I'm sure it sorted his family out for life. But it was a Reddit post somewhere. One day I'm going to dig it out and try and find that Reddit post. It's incredible.
What year was it?
2015, I guess. When was $400 Bitcoin? It was after the hernia. It's
2015, yeah.
It's Mike Hearn, when Mike Hearn left. It was shortly after that. I remember it was on the Reddit thing, on Bitcoin Reddit. It was a great story. I often think about it. I'm like, whatever happened? Did they get unlock the coins? Did they get the coins?
Can't afford to tell anyone.
He's dead. He died. The guy was legitimately dying.
Oh, really?
It is
Yeah. He had a terminal illness, and he said, I've sold my house. I bought Bitcoin. I've time locked them. And everyone on the Bitcoin Bitcoin Reddit were like, oh, that's probably a bad idea. Like, thing could break. Which I still think is great advice, but not to go all in like that. But he's like, no, it's going to work. And yeah, dude must have died, I guess, and then his family hopefully unlocked the coins, and that probably sorted their family out for generations. So yeah, it was a great story.
Well, it's great because he gets his wishes in there. Because otherwise, like they're saying in the chat, they're like, yeah, he would have given him the Bitcoin and they would have sold it right away and wasted it and spent it or whatever. And this way he could say, well, I think 5 years or 10 years or however long he chose is the correct number to hodl these coins.
Very cool. Well, at least he didn't pick 20 years and then have the quantum hackers steal it. So that would be sad. But The on the film, I don't know. AI for me is just it's like looking at a wet flannel. It's a bit like maybe it's another thing, a new art form, just sort of disposable media or something. That's maybe the way to think of it. But like, I want to see real performance with real humans. Like I remember those James Bond. There'd always be a car stunt in James Bond, and you would always go, you breathe in because you're like, oh bloody hell, that looks dangerous. And then when you had CGI, and then you had all, anything, everything you saw, you were like, well, this isn't real. So you just wouldn't feel it. You just feel dead inside. You're just watching a bunch of flashy lights. It's like back to back TikTok videos all stitched together. It's modern films. But, and for me, I mean, I guess a lot of movies are just green screen now. So getting rid of the actors kind of makes sense, I suppose. But I like a film with real people.
No, they're going to have real actors in it.
They're going to have real actors. Oh, everything else. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's already happens, doesn't it? I suppose with the green screen stuff, you see like the the special features, whatever you see them actually filming these films, and most of it is green screen anyway. So I suppose it's not such a huge change. But yeah, I don't think you can take the actors out of it because I think the actors are the thing which you respond to as a human, and I think you're dead right, Victoria. Like we underestimate the context that humans have over AI. Like our bodies are flooded with data, and it's like how we feel and what we smell and our thoughts, and it's not just text and Wikipedia and the internet and data. It's actual, and it's not mimicking. It's actual, real fear of death, like all these things which go into the process of you being able to build something beautiful like artwork or whatever. And I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. Like we're nowhere near AGI, and we're nowhere near AI being able to replicate that stuff. But yeah, did you hear about Sora as well? Like Sora, because OpenAI they quit Sora, didn't they shut that down, and they rug Disney. Disney had invested $1 billion in them on Sora, and then OpenAI just stopped Sora. So I'm not sure about video create because it's very expensive for compute. So I'm not I don't know. I'm not too bullish on the old video creation using AI. It's a bit flaky. And then what was the other subject?
Well, it's not over yet, Ben. Just 2 days ago, a company reported that Val Kilmer is being brought back by AI. As Deep as the Grave trailer brings the late actor back to the screen. As far as I know, this isn't like they finished the film like Gladiator. The guy passed away, so they finished the film with some shadowy shots and some guys standing in for him and a little bit of computer graphics. This is a wholly brand new film that Val Kilmer never saw in his lifetime, never read, and he's going to be acting in it. His family says he would have loved it. They said this is the kind of thing he would have liked. Obviously, other people are going to be upset. There was a lot of people upset with The Wizard of Oz when they restaged it for the Sphere. They took some of the actors and digitally made them walk around the room. And this kind of new movement was very strange, and the family sued, and they're like, yeah, our father didn't walk that way, or he didn't do this, or you made him look not cool, or you manipulated him, you changed his performance, right? Which was a problem before just with George Lucas editing Star Wars, but now is potentially a problem with all of these films, especially if more and more films get the Sphere treatment blown up to Sphere, or even just an IMAX treatment, trying to bring back some classics like Casablanca IMAX.
I guess it's
stuff in there.
It's a new art form. It's a new thing, isn't it? It's like when Pixar did Toy Story or something. It's a new thing, and it'll be cool and interesting and fun to watch. But you're not going to get away. You're still going to have the gritty indie films with real people on location in real places, and I don't think you're going to get rid of that.
And that was a change when I watched the Oscars this year. I was shocked by some of the films like Train Dreams, where they started out with actual pictures of nature, and you could see all the spirals and all the flowers and all the plants and all the real nature. And then, as well as the film Hamnet, was filmed entirely with like realistic looking light. So they're in these dark houses with like one window, and the brightness was all just one window. They didn't light it like it was a Hollywood set where everyone can be seen clearly. So it did stand out, these films having realistic backgrounds, as opposed to this AI film killing Satoshi. We just can't have nice things. He's like, oh, we could have spent $300 million and traveled all over the world to make this film. I'm like, and like Ben saying, then it would have been like James Bond, and we would have wanted to see it. Everyone's going to know that it's fake and it's AI, and it's going to have this kind of not real tinge to it. I hope that it's awesome. I hope, like Ben says, it blows us away and we don't even notice. But I'm afraid that it won't be. But still, we're out of stories, even Val Kilmer bonus stories. We're out of that. So let's move on to predictions or story of the week. Victoria Jones, do you have a prediction or a story of the week?
Well, I suppose my story of the week is I have a new background. This is how I will be presenting myself on the World Crypto Network from now on, just because I'm going to be doing some traveling soon. So, I'll try and keep up while I'm out and about, and this will anonymize my movements. So, yeah, hope you like it, everybody. And might change it from time to time just to keep it interesting.
Let's go to Ben Ark. Are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Victoria's background's genius. I'm going to copy it because I think, why not? Like, your background's just sat there doing nothing. Like, you should be selling something or promoting something or doing something with the background. So, Thomas, we're all going to have like shill backgrounds from now on because I like it. I want one. Nothing really. I mean, I last week I was very excited because we were about to launch loads of things. But this past week has been the final like 3% of those things, and we didn't manage to get them out this week, and I didn't get to do all these wonderful videos about the new things. So kind of frustrating because it's like you're excited about the thing and then you want to like promote it and get it out there into the ecosystem, let people use it. But yeah, it's just been it's always that final 3 to 5%. It's just so much harder than you think it's going to be. There's always little extra jobs you have to do on it. So that's been this week's very frustrating, very annoying. Everyone in like the LMBits development team, we're all like getting annoyed at each other because we want to get the things out. But it's fun. Once it's done, and then then we'll be proud of it and it'll invigorate us again. So nothing really. What did I work on this week? Oh, I did make a cool thing actually this week. I made a it was like it was I needed for a separate thing. I needed a price oracle, which wasn't just an exchange. It's for something which needs to be regulated. So, and having the price oracle something that can be manipulated to benefit whoever runs the oracle doesn't really work. So within in LMBits, we have like a utility which takes the price from lots of different exchanges and sort of creates a medium just of all the prices, and that's pretty cool. But I made an extension which creates a federation of LMBits instances, and then the extension itself has Noster keys, so you can each member of the federation could go fetch the price from all these different exchanges, sign it with their key, and then the federation, I know of 10 people running this instance, as long as the outcome is the same or roughly the same, then you would sign it and then the job would be signed as complete. But what you get is like a really nice decentralized price oracle. But then I was actually thinking you could do a whole bunch of like shitcoiny things on it as well, because it's, a federation. You can run compute, so it uses something called WebAssembly. It's kind of technical. Anyway, I had like the idea of it itself got me excited, and I was playing around with that. But the rest of the week was just that horrible 5 to 3% of just trying to get the thing finished.
Well, it's good to hear, Ben. People can check it out at lnbits.com. I don't have that much to say this week. I'm still watching old TV shows. I've been watching Resident Alien. It's a pretty fun show where the guy's dropped into a small town, and spoiler alert, he's an alien. It's got the guy from Firefly, so that's pretty fun. And I recently watched The Last Man on Earth. It's funny at first, then it kind of falls apart, but it's a good show about a guy being the last man on Earth. Interestingly enough, it predated the COVID pandemic and predicted a virus that would wipe all of us out, so that there'd only be one man and then eventually about 10 people or so left. So some more great television to watch out in this time of distraction where you don't want to watch the news. And it turns out everything turned out fine. Taco happened. Trump chickened out. He ended the war, as I've been predicting. Whether it stays ended or not, it doesn't matter. Wall Street just wanted to hear those words. The war was ended. Now everything can go up again. So presumably we're back. We're back. I don't know. Until the next thing. So thanks so much for joining us, but we're running out of time. Until next time, bye.
Bye.